welcome to our first QPR Preview Show of 2023-24. If you didn't see us last season, this is a 10-15 minute show each week with me, James, and my QPR expert, Dave, to have a quick look at the week before, to preview the upcoming QPR match, and we have some stats and graphics and things on the screen for you to enjoy. It looks like it could be a hell of a ride this season. We'd love you to join us on our QPR message board. It's free to join and post, and you can take part in our QPR prediction competitions too. Of course, opening day, it's Watford away from home, the first of 4 away matches in the opening 5 league games. We'll look ahead to that one shortly. But firstly, Dave, what are your thoughts on an eventful pre-season?
Yeah, it's not been great, has it? It's the short of it. Results, I don't think results matter too much, but I do think that hammering they got Oxford might actually do them a bit of a favour. It felt like a bit like that one where we lost to West Brom under McLaren when we got tonked 7-1. And all of a sudden they went, oh yeah, we're not good enough, are we? We're going to need new players. And I think they seem to have been going along going, yeah, we're going to be fine. We don't need a lot. And that defeat must have shown them they need a hell of a lot. We are well short. And I think that might, stir them into action a bit and might do them a favour long term. But it's just been an odd summer. I look at the squad, and last year I thought it was just so poor, and I thought, well, it can't get much worse, and it has. Just look at every position across the pitch, and we just look weaker everywhere. We've lost players and not really replaced them. Colback's come in. I think he's a good signing, but a lot of the other signings haven't really played yet, have they? It's just, it's not great. Hopefully, it's going to be better than I'm expecting.
Yeah. Even the players that we've kept on to that are better players on paper, like your Chairs, Willocks, they all seem a little bit down, out of form and stuff, don't they? So it's not a good mix. But I was obviously on the season preview early this week. We were all quite pessimistic. And you mentioned in there, but Jack Colback, he's certainly improved my mood, just him coming in. I think he's probably our best signing of the lot, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. He's someone they need, like someone who's just going to win the ball in midfield, show a bit of fight. So I think him and Field together could be a good partnership in midfield for, especially the way Ainsworth wants to play. He doesn't seem to want a playmaker in midfield. That's why Johansson's gone, and I think he'll fit in quite well. And he's quite experienced. He's done well at this level before. Can play in a few different positions as well. So I was pleased. I think that's the one signing we've made this summer, which I think, he's better than what we had before, and hopefully there's a few more to come.
Yeah, hopefully. I suppose the only issue was bringing in players like Colback, Morgan Fox. These feel like short-term fixes, don't they? You wonder where it's going to leave us in 12 months because we are continuing to go massively off-piste from the idea of developing players to sell, to help us with FFP. Feels like we could be in a bit of a vicious cycle now for a few years, doesn't it?
It does. That's where we feel we are with like financial fair play. They're obviously, the problem they've had is they haven't sold people the last 2-3 years. So they, really Dickey should have gone 2 years ago when it was an unpopular move and we all loved him. In the end, he's gone when his form's fallen off a cliff and we've got no money for him really. And you look at who we've brought in, there's not many you think will sell on for big money in a year's time. It doesn't seem to be, other than if Chair goes this window, or maybe in the end of the season, because I think he's got a few years left. There's not many you think we're going to get any money for in the whole squad that I can think of. Willocks in his last year and has been poor for over a couple of months now. So yes, it is a worry, and it does seem to be we're going down that line of a lot of 30-year-old plus players, which does make me laugh when we're making such a big thing about this training ground, and now we're going to develop players, and every signing is 33. It's like, well, they don't need developing, do they? They probably know what they're doing by now.
You're right as well, and I think one of the only other sellable assets is maybe Field, but players in his position don't tend to command such a big fee, do they? So I don't know what they're going to do, but it does feel like we're in it for the hard yards now, I should say. Watford then at the weekend, yes, we all feel a little bit down about the whole season coming up, but opening day, it still is a little bit exciting. And on paper, it's not a bad side for us to be facing. We've won the last 3 against Watford. We did the double over them last season. They were the only team we actually did the double over. Only lost 1 of the last 8 back to 2011. That was in the Cup when they were a top flight team. Lots of positives there, at least. It's been a busy summer at Vicarage Road. Lots of departures from their side as well. 15, 20 players out, something like that. They've lost the star names that they had last season, like the likes of Sarr, Pedro. Do you think then for Watford it is now a case of lowering expectations for them, or do you think they could still be pushing towards the top 6?
I think with what they've got at the minute, they'll probably be lowering expectations and thinking mid-table. But they're going to have money still, haven't they? They've got quite big money for a few players. Sarr went for about 30 million, I think, in the summer. So, it's always hard to tell with teams at this stage when the window's still open. They could still go big, and you'd think, oh, maybe they'll get the playoffs in the next few weeks. But at the minute, I think they're probably a bit of a mid-table side. Kind of wish we were playing them at home, which was what we were supposed to be originally. I would have fancied us against that, but away is going to be a tricky one.
Yeah, Chris Wilder was obviously in charge at the end of last season. The ever-revolving door at Watford means he's already been replaced by Valerian Ismail. Do you expect him to last any longer than his predecessors? Usually they get, 3-4 months if they're lucky.
Yeah, I mean, that's been their way for about 10 years, isn't it? So I wouldn't expect him to be there by Christmas. He's an odd one because when he was at Barnsley the other year, he looked like a good manager. They had a really good side at Barnsley, like a high energy team, so difficult to play against. But he didn't do that great at West Brom, and it's a bit of a gamble going for him. Who knows him? He likes his teams to play really high tempo, but looking at the players they've got, not sure they're really suited to that. But have to wait and see. Maybe he's changed his philosophy, what he wants to do.
Yeah, I was about to say, he feels to me like he's a manager where he needs a very certain style of players and a group of players. And I don't suspect Watford have really got that. So I imagine he'll be gone by Christmas.
Yeah.
From a QPR perspective, then, I spoke in the season preview about Ainsworth preferring a 4-2-3-1 through pre-season. But do you suspect that he might have spent the week practicing his Burnley and Stoke tactics again? I mean, adopting the don't get battered, scrape a point kind of tactics for this one, given what went on last weekend.
Yeah, almost certainly, especially because it's away. He's not going to, after last week, he can't really afford another hiding, can he? He'll be making us hard to beat, I would have thought. Probably 2 banks of 4, be difficult to break down, be wasting time from the first minute, I imagine, similar to the home game against them last year. And hopefully that'll work somehow. I don't think it's going to be pretty to watch, but, you look at the squad he's got, I'm not sure they're capable of playing much pretty football, really. I mean, they haven't shown it the last year or so. So, it's needs must, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a confidence thing, though, isn't it? As other players are low on confidence, so maybe it's going to be better to just make it simple for them and say, don't try and be too expansive. Just sit in, try and maybe get them on the counter attack. In terms of the team, we know Clark Salter is out. Surprise, surprise. God knows how long is that for, because no doubt they'll keep it close to the chest, and it could be probably October, November before he's back. Morgan Fox got some minutes in the week for the development squad. I mean, it sounded like he was going to try and maybe keep him out of the action when he first joined, but you'd assume now he's going to have to come straight back in because the defence is in tatters, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what I was saying about the squad. When you look at the squad, it's so weak. It hasn't taken a lot for us to be in this position. There ain't us 2 defenders. Dunn's injured, which was unfortunate, and Clark Salter, which was expected, and you're left with no one really. Fox has got he's got to start really, hasn't he? But he's a converted left back. He's not been a centre half that long. And God knows who they'll play alongside him. There's talk that they're going to try and get another centre half in the next few days before the season starts, but they're cutting it fine now, aren't they? I suppose it'd be Gubbins potentially will make his debut. I mean, I've obviously not really seen him, to be honest. So who knows what he's like.
Yeah, I don't think he'll start Gubbins. Even if we don't sign someone, I really don't think he's going to throw Gubbins in there because it's probably going to do more harm than good for him if he plays and then we get beat 5-0 again or something. I think he may even try Field back there and have to put Dazelle and Cole back in midfield. He'll have to try something, but I'm convinced he's not going to play Gubbins in centre back. Like I say, hopefully they've got someone in by midday on Friday to try and who can then eligible to play, aren't they?
Kakai is another option, I suppose, as well. Could play centre half and you play Drew right back. But doesn't fill you with confidence, to be honest, does it?
No, they even said Larkesh could play as a centre back when they signed him, but there's been no sign of that in pre-season. If Colback isn't deemed fit enough to start, do you think the pressure's on Dazelle to perform if he's in? Because at some point he's got to realise, hasn't he, that I'm never going to be making it as a first choice, or I'm never even going to make it at this level unless I go up a couple of levels now.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to be a championship or higher player, this has got to be his season. He's been here 2 years now. He's flat to deceive. He was all right in the first year. Well, I thought he was really poor last year. He needs to turn up, and having these, they're obviously looking at midfield players. Colback's come in. They're looking to try and get others in as well. His place is on the line, and a good start for him. He might end up keeping his place. You never know. But he actually had, when we played Watford last year, he played quite well against them in the home game. So hopefully he'll do well again on the weekend. But yeah, I would have thought he'll start.
Fingers crossed he does go up those levels. We literally need him to, don't we? Haven't got many other options. suppose the only other question mark about our team is maybe around Taylor Richards. He continues to confuse, amuse, bemuse in equal measure, doesn't he? Looks like he's got something about him one minute, the next he's stumbling over the ball, jumping out of tackles. It looks like Ainsworth maybe wanted to try and play him off Dykes. That was his plan for the season, but do you think his performance at Oxford has cost him his place?
Possibly, but I think he's one of them. You probably at some point you're going to need to give him a run in the team. I don't know if the start we've got these 4 away games is probably the wisest time to put him in, but at some point you're going to have to give him a run in the side, not 5 minutes at the end of the game, then leave him out for 2 weeks and then bring him back in. He's got to get a run in the team and see if he's any good. He's one of the only players we've spent money on, so they must think something of him. So I think Ainsworth, if it's difficult, I think he would have started him. I think that was his plan, but that hammering last week has probably meant he's going to go a bit more defensive than he planned to. So that might cost him a bit.
Yeah, I wonder whether he's going to bring Adoma back in. He seemed to trust him at the end of last season, didn't he? Maybe move Chair inside, put Adoma back out on the wing. Means Chair and Willock are a bit closer together as well. I'm not convinced Taylor Richards will start this one, especially maybe because we've just discussed maybe they're going to change the shape to go more defensive anyway. A quick word on the championship overall. Your thoughts on who could be near the bottom of the table with us this season?
Yeah, I've been hoping to find a few more. Unfortunately, it was quite an hard league, didn't it? I think Sheffield Wednesday may struggle this year. Rotherham again, maybe Huddersfield, although they've still got Warnock for another year, so they'll probably pull themselves out. There's a few like the mid-table teams from last year, like Preston, that you think might drop into trouble. But the worrying thing about this league is there's a lot of teams that you think look decent. I mean, there's your ones coming down from the Premier League, which if they keep their squads together and the money they got to spend, there look certainties to go up, like Leicester and Southampton and Leeds as well. But there's also like the Ipswich have gone down and they've been able to spend in League One and got pretty good side, and they're coming up. They haven't got to spend fortunes this year. They look like they could be good. Sunderland as well. So the number of teams down the bottom looks smaller than I'd like it to be honest. I think it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, it just feels like we're hoping there's going to be some other teams that are going to struggle. Huddersfield is one that I think, well, I know they've got Warnock, but they've only signed that one player and it's from Blackpool. I thought he was going to massively overhaul them, but it doesn't look like he's been able to. So they may still be down there despite the Warnock effect. Crystal ball time then for the first time this season. Firstly, your QPR season prediction. Are we going down? Do you think most of the pundits and supercomputers and things have got us heading for League One? Where do you see us finishing before a ball is kicked?
If the squad stays as it is now, then yeah, I agree with all the pundits. Bottom three. That's this squad we have as we're sitting here now is not good enough to stay up. It was lucky to stay up last year, and we've lost a lot of them already. But I'm hopeful we're gonna bring a few players in the next few weeks, which could just get us out of it. It's not going to be pretty. We're going to be in the bottom 6, in my opinion, all season. It's just a case of just trying to get through it and get over the line. So I'll optimistically say if we make some changes, we'll finish 18th.
I think you made a good point at the start, comparing it to that West Brom game under Steve McLaren, the 7-1. I'm hoping that Oxford result has come earlier and has actually done us a favour, hasn't it? And like you say, they've now still got a month to try and right the wrongs and really see what's going wrong.
Yeah.
I still think we're going to be struggling all season. It just comes down to the basics of football, doesn't it? I can't see us scoring enough at one end and keeping enough out at the other end. And I think that means we are in for a long season. If you put a gun against my head and said I had to pick a spot, I think I'd maybe say 20th, similar to last season. I think we might just survive. If Ainsworth over time can instill the way he wants them to battle and scrap and fight and everything we'd like to see, maybe we can just get over the line. I think the only good argument I've seen that will do all right is that the teams who everyone thought were going to struggle last season actually did okay. But there's not really any logic in that as to why QPR would be all right this season.
You say about the lack of goals as well. We sat here a year ago saying, well, we've only got Dykes really as a striker. We haven't got enough goals to mount a playoff push, which is what the aim was last year. And a year later, we're still in the same boat. We've still only got Dykes. And Dykes may do better this year. I'm quite hopeful of him. I think he's great that he signed a new deal. But you need more. You can't go into a season with one striker. And your backups, Armstrong and Kelman, well, they might be exciting, but they've never scored a goal at this level. You're asking for trouble doing that.
Yeah, even if Dykes has an amazing season and scores like 15, 16 goals, that's still not going to be enough unless everyone else starts to chip in a bit more, isn't it? So, again, just more cause for concern.
Yeah.
Final prediction time then for Watford. How do you see the opening day panning out?
Yeah, like I said, I think if it was at home, I'd have fancied us, but away, I don't really. I'm going to go 3-1 to Watford. Unfortunately, disappointing start.
Yeah, for me, it's similar to what I just said then about the whole season. I just can't see us scoring and can't see us keeping a clean sheet with how the defence looks right now. I know they might be able to sort that out, but that's not going to be in time probably for Saturday. Confidence, like I said as well, taking a hit. That's going to be in the back of the minds on the pitch on Saturday. I think how it went last Saturday. Everything unfortunately points towards an ominous afternoon. And you know it's bad when I think if it was a 1 or 2-0 defeat, we'd probably all think that was okay. So it shows how bad things are, doesn't it? Well, whatever happens, we'll be here next week to see how QPR have got on. Maybe the hopes and expectations of the season will be in a different place if we can pick up some points, maybe even 3 points. Who knows? Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. And come on, your arse.
We know who we are. You know who we are. We are QPR.